Hi, I'm Enchanting Nubia Annette. Welcome back. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Today I'm going to focus on this breaking news story regarding NBA. This is huge, everyone, because the federal prosecutors in Brooklyn, New York unsealed two related cases. The first is a mafia-backed, tech-assisted scheme to rig high-stakes underground poker games. And the second is a separate sports betting conspiracy that used non-public NBA information and alleged in-game manipulation to cash prop bets. So the Portland Trail Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups and Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier were both charged in these investigations. Plus, former Cavs guard coach Damon Jones is charged in both of these affairs too. This is horrific. The NBA has put Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier on leave while the criminal cases are proceeding. They're still investigating. Prosecutors say that the organized crime associates they have been used as face cards. That means recognizable ex-athletes to draw in wealthy people, these targets, into the poker games that were secretly rigged using altered shufflers, X-ray tables, marked cards, and to convert signaling to a quarterback who knew the winning hands. This, really causes people not to believe anything about games, the integrity.
We have major breaking news around us this morning, and it comes from the NBA. And here is what we know. Trailblazers coach Chauncey Billups and Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier have both been arrested as part of FBI investigations into sports gambling. Billups' arrest was part of a separate case, but it was related, linked to an illegal poker operation tied to the mafia. That, according to reporting from ABC News. At the core of Rozier's arrest is a game from March of 2023 that saw an uptake of Rozier bets coming in on the under. Rozier left that game just 9 minutes in, citing a foot injury. He had previously not been accused of any wrongdoing. Shams was all over this story, as you might expect, as are others.
Game early, enabling over $200,000 in quote-unquote under wages that paid when he left after 9 minutes. So the government notes that Damon Jones allegedly sold pre-lease lineup injury information multiple times, and all defendants are presumed innocent right now. So again, this case is ongoing with the investigation. So you're probably wondering how the FBI found out. Homeland Security Investigations, New York first uncovered the poker operation over 4 years ago. So again, when there's a crime, these FBI agents do take time to watch you for a very significant time, track your devices, check your whereabouts, and even people in your close circle. So they worked with the FBI, the NYPD, and the New York Waterfront Commission. The feds described a multi-state probe that traced the money flows. They monitored the tech used to read the cards. They documented extortion to collect gambling debts. And they tied it to the games, to the Bonanno, Gambino, and Genovese crime family figures. So in the sports betting case, the FBI agents say that they followed the communications, the betting patterns, and even cash pickups that link to the non-public, the injury, and the lineup information. So again, all of this was being monitored over 4 years.
Where the Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier and Portland Trail Blazers coach Chauncey Billups are under arrest this morning in connection with federal sports betting investigations. According to 3 sources with direct knowledge of the matter, members and associates of organized crime groups are also among the couple of dozen individuals expected to face criminal charges in 2 separate illegal gambling-related cases. Rozier has previously been linked to unusual betting patterns surrounding his play, specifically during the 2023 season with the Charlotte Hornets. Charges for Billups appear to be related to an illegal poker operation. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn and FBI Director Kash Patel are scheduled to hold a news conference on the cases at the top of the hour. Joining us now, New York Magazine contributing editor and Washington Post columnist Will Leach with the latest. And also, what do you make of the news, Will?
I mean, it is. If it's not, they're saying these investigations are separate but related, which
Right.
I think speaks to how kind of wide-ranging this is. This is the second time that Rozier has been a part of something. To me, the larger thing, the fact that Billups, he's a coach. Like there's also an assistant coach, Damon Jones, who's involved in this as well. The fact that this is not the first time that Rozier's been involved. This has not been the first NBA situation. This has not been the first sports situation. Remember, Emmanuel Clase, the closer for the Cleveland Guardians, was unable to play the end of the season and in the playoffs because he's currently involved in a gambling investigation involved in as well with Major League Baseball. This is something that a lot of people have been warning about for a long period of time, not just when gambling was made legal, states were unable to make it illegal, but also when leagues themselves have jumped really full feet. You watch these games on the FanDuel network and there are broadcasters saying, hey, if you want to get a little action on this game right now, on this free throw that's coming up, particularly when you come to the Rozier thing. Rozier is the thing involving micro betting, which is the idea you bet on what's going to happen to the next player, how many assists they're going to get in something. That is something that is very ripe for corruption. I think we've seen that multiple times with him.
Been altered. They could never have, the same caliber of jobs that they had before. Why would Chauncey Billups and, risk a 20-year reputation? I'm going to start with him because he's been in the NBA league for such a long time. So, I'm keeping it honest. I don't know the motive. His lawyer flatly denies the allegations. And that said that the experts and former mob figures have floated possibilities seen in the past integrity cases. So, for example, there is coercion and blackmail or grooming by the organized crime. They recruit. So recruitment can start with friendly games, favors, and compromising situations. And then, because they're mob bosses, it could shift to, quote unquote, do this or else. So that's speculation for an ex-Gambino enforcer regarding why Chauncey Billups, I keep saying that, Chauncey Billups would be even involved in this type of case. Maybe it led to, something that was, less pressured and then he didn't have a choice. Maybe it could be, like proximity, because when high profile names show up at exclusive games, it normalizes a room to lure in, a lot of money. So the indictment literally labels these type of figures, like I mentioned, face cards. And it definitely, can cause a lot of conflicts regarding ethical lines over time, because again, the integrity has been eroded. And when you see like these NBA players, someone who's been in the league for such a long time, people know that they're working with people who definitely have money, who have assets, and they can take those huge risks. There's also, financial pressures and a lot of ego, not necessarily about being quote unquote broke. Sometimes it's a lifestyle, it's debts, it's the thrill also of being the insider among power brokers. So we know these people have money. And, this is always going to lure in people who are not sure, or people who may not have that amount of money, but they know how to, act as if and, create an illusion. And the bottom line is a government will have to prove the knowledge and intent regarding these cases. So these are possibly reasons why he would risk, his 20 plus year reputation. But look at the outcome. Now he has, he had to step down from his head coach career. He was recently, inducted in the Hall of Fame, I believe, in 2024. And, this is a huge case. So we want to know now, who are the specific people who were arrested. So besides Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, the federal filings listed the following additional defendants across the two indictments, because some of these people do appear in both, and they're tied to the organized crime families. For example, Damon Jones, who I mentioned earlier, Ernest Aiello, Nelson Alvarez, Luis Apicella, Amar Awada, Saw Betcher, Matthew Dadino, Eric Ernest, Morris Farley, Lee Fama, John Gallo, Marco Gazzone, Thomas Garlato, Jamie Gillette, Tony Goodson, Kenny Han, Shane Hennon, Osmond Hoti, Horatio Hu, Zen Hu, Joseph Lani, Danira Laster, John Mazzala, Curtis Meeks, Nicholas Manucci, Michael Renzulli, Angelo Ruggiero Jr., Anthony Schneiderman, Robert Stroud, Seth Trussman, Sophia Wee, and Julia Zelani. So that is a full roster, and they're tied to both cases. So this is where the NBA stands, YouTube family, because the commissioner, David Silver, he called the arrests, quote unquote, deeply disturbed. And the league says that the integrity, as I mentioned before, definitely remains top priority. So they are cooperating with authorities right now. And the teams have renewed the gambling policy education efforts. So remember, everyone, Terry Rozier, he was reviewed by the NBA in 2023, not too long ago. But the league said it lacked evidence at that time. And the new federal case goes even further. So you know what? If you know that the feds and investigators, they're watching you, why in the world would you continue? Well, allegedly. He should have definitely, I don't know if he's guilty or not, but I definitely would have not associated with any of these people. I would have definitely had a very, very tight schedule. I wouldn't even mingle with anyone involved in any type of gambling or, what we saw regarding, in the news where there was a fake injury within minutes when he started playing. All of these things are captured on video anyway. So they have a lot of evidence. Once you know that they have a heads up on you, you need to really be careful. Watch every single step you make.
Eye on this stuff. Now, the Billups thing is different. That does appear to, it's related, but it does appear to be involved to a poker ring. But again, that's the coach of a team. These things are, any athlete that's involved in this, particularly in their own sport, it's a very, very dangerous thing.
Isn't this, in many ways, though, an issue of what it does to the fans, the consumers who are buying tickets, who are supporting something that is lucrative, that is really being fixed, and ultimately they're the victims, not the teams. The victims are really the sports fans that are paying for what they think is fair or that has no leaning either way.
Yeah, there's no question. There's a lot of things that sports can survive, whether it's a steroid scandal or labor issues. One thing you do have to generally, everyone has to agree on, though, is that the games are on the level. At a certain level, everything falls apart if you don't have if that fundamental understanding, everyone is just playing to try to win these games with no financial motive or somehow trying to lose or taking a fall or anything like that. That's the scary thing about it. This has been, again, the thing that people have worried about with gambling for a very long time and being so involved in sports. It's not so much that that gambling is inherently terrible or the idea that you shouldn't be allowed to do it. It's the idea that if you start thinking these games aren't on the level, what's the point of watching them? What's the point of getting invested in them if there are things the whole structure of sports falls down if you don't have that fundamental thing. This team's trying to win and this team is also trying to win for the reasons of competition and not for the reasons that we're seeing right now.
Exactly.
Talent, your character will always be a downfall. That's why you need to have a good character, as far as honest character. Because if you don't have those morals, whether you have the skills, whether you have the talent, you're going to sabotage yourself. And this is exactly what happens, self-sabotage. And, having big egos and greed involved as well. Because I know the money was huge, very, very lucrative. So what just starts as just quote unquote information becomes wire fraud, for example. What feels like quote unquote just a friendly game changes into racket, with extortion on the back end. It's not a legitimate hustle, especially when people are getting hurt now. Families are being hurt. So, this is what I think should happen, going forward. The sports industry, whether it's the NBA, whether it's, baseball, any of the sports league, they need to really tighten up. They need to tighten up on prop bet markets that's tied to individual performance and early exits, because they're usually the easiest targets for manipulation. They need to have hard firewalls around injury and lineup intel, such as accessing logs, audits, compartmentalization, and so forth. They should also be mandatory recurring integrity training for all players, coaches, and staff of all of these sports leagues. They should be anonymous reporting channels and even counseling for gambling addiction. That's another huge factor because this is also aligned with mental illness, where some people, because it's going to trigger that dopamine in the brain to continue doing it, even though they know the stakes are really high, and they're depleting their bank accounts and not able to pay their bills. They're destroying their own livelihood, but it's an addiction. They need help. They need therapy, counseling, what have you. There should also be clarity and consistency on penalties. There should be lifetime bans for proven manipulation, serious suspensions for anyone who's involved in insider info leaks, and even automatic referrals to law enforcement when it's non-public information and it's being monetized. Last but not least, I believe there should be a lot of community education where fans and even young athletes, new into the sports arena or sports industry, they need to hear the hard truth about how just one tip can lead to a felony, which is a serious charge. So this is a shame, it's really heartbreaking when, people are blessed to have an opportunity such as this, to have the talent, to have the skills, they're able to, change the lives of themselves and also their family generations. And then they sabotage it. This is really baffling. So everyone, what is your take on this? I know you have seen the news story all over, making breaking news. What is your take on this case regarding especially the Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier. Please leave your thoughts below. Thank you so much for watching. And please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Stay safe wherever you are. Live with integrity. And have your head on a swivel.